What's up, YouTube? ODST General back again with another Operation Trebuchet news update. And before we get going with today's video, guys, I just want to clarify that going forward into the future, we are going to be shifting from Fridays to Sundays with the OpTrade news videos. The reason for this being is that I am just having a heck of a time getting these videos out Friday mornings with work and everything. I've been really busy throughout the entire week doing scheduling and everything else for work and driving all over the place trying to get everybody scheduled. So we're going to shift these over to Sundays. That'll give me a little bit of extra time over the weekend where I don't have to actually be working to have a chance to get these out. Even if it means like a last minute thing, it's going to be a lot easier doing these last minute on a Saturday or a Friday than it would be on a Thursday. So yeah, just expect these to come out from on Sundays, and of course there is a possibility that if for whatever reason I can't make a Sunday, we'll come out with it as soon as possible probably, or we'll just hold it off till the next Sunday or whatever. But just of course keep tuned for that, and just look for these on Sundays going forwards. Now, with the video, let's go ahead and get started with weapons. So, starting us off with weapons, we have a new insurrectionist weapon that is just absolutely autistic. This is a sniper rifle that Vespade was working on. This is, of course, a modified version of the D variant of the sniper rifle. And yeah, it's a short-barreled sniper rifle, and like I said, it's going to be an insurrectionist weapon, and I'm just completely lying to you guys. He was just screwing around with it, and he told me not to put it in the video, so I had to spite him by putting it in the video. So I do apologize for misleading you guys. Bear with me on it, though. I will show you where he's actually working on here, which is, of course, the D sniper rifle, but this is the actual sniper rifle that we're going to be getting. Pretty similar to the one we already have in game, and like I said, I personally have a hard time spotting the small details, and the only reason I know some of the stuff that's been worked on is because I watched Vespade making this thing during a live stream, so I know there's a lot of small and fine details that he labored over for literal hours just on single components, just trying to get it right for everybody. So he's put a lot of love and effort into this thing, and this is my personal favorite sniper rifle anyways, so I'm glad to see that. Now, I know it is also supposed to be getting some performance changes. I don't know exactly what that's going to mean for the gun, and I don't know if we can expect those at the same time as the visual update to the gun. But with that being said, hopefully we should get those and get a better idea what to expect with that before too long. And actually, on that note, in my one of my previous videos, I stated that they were hoping to have the weapons update out by October. That is just for limited testing. I was asked to clarify that, so not everybody is going to be getting these weapons in October, regardless of whether or not you have the dev build. But certain community members and the development team, I would imagine, will be getting access to these to try them out, make sure that they're working properly and everything. So I just wanted to lay that out for you guys. So then we're going to shift over to the MA2B, which is, of course, being worked on by Reverence. And personally, once again, a gun I'm very excited for. I like these CQB guns, shotguns, the SMGs, the MA5K. So the MA2B looks like it's going to fit kind of in that role. Obviously, it's the predecessor to the 5B, so this might work a little bit more as a medium or even long-range weapon, but it looks very much like a close-range weapon, being a bullpup type of weapon. Regardless what it is, I love the design of this thing. I think it's fantastic, and it's one of those extended lore weapons, which I'm always thrilled to see this sort of stuff, things that we won't necessarily ever get in an actual Halo game that's been talked about in, books and, shown in pictures and stuff like that. So thrilled to get this thing. Looks fantastic. Can't wait to see it actually finished and completed. Then that brings us over to the pistol. Now, Marstruck has updated his testing side mod, Marstruck's Alpha, and we've gotten a few different things in that update, but the first one that we have here in this video that we're going to be talking about is the Comet, which is a hunting pistol, or at least that's the lore behind it. This is a strong pistol, huge kick to it, big recoil, tons of damage. I think it's like 3 shots to kill in the elite from what I've heard. Not sure if that's actually the case, haven't tested it myself, but it's a huge wallop that this thing packs. So as far as vehicles go, we have Frosty showing off some more images of the Hornet. Of course, looking fantastic once again too, just like a lot of the stuff. Continual model improvements and everything, so I'm pretty excited for this thing. Now, personally for me, the Hornet isn't like a big centerpiece, but I'm hoping that maybe we'll see some performance tweaks and changes to this thing to make it a little bit more viable for terrible pilots like myself. But worst case scenario, I'll have some beautiful eye candy to watch murdering insurrectionists and Covenant down the road. Then that brings us over to another vehicle by Hollywood, sort of. This is actually older footage that I never got uploaded during my hiatus earlier this year, and it kind of got buried in a separate folder from my normal Optray stuff. And I was going back through and deleting stuff and clearing stuff out of a folder, and I found this thing, so I figured I'd get this uploaded for you guys to show it off. So this is a in-game footage of the Rhino, obviously. You get to see it firing. Doesn't have its tracks yet, which I think is part of what caused it to launch, like, flying backwards. But you guys get to see it textured, or at least a form of texturing. I don't know if that's going to change or anything down the road, potentially at some point again, maybe. But you guys get to see it firing. You get to see, you know, decent look at the textures, get to kind of see how it's going to operate, the idea of the gun and everything, and how powerful this thing actually is. It's fantastic. I'm actually very excited for this. Artillery is long overdue for Optray. You know, it's a big centerpiece. I don't know how frequently most units use artillery, but I feel like that's going to be a big thing for a lot of mods and a lot of units and stuff, I should say. And then staying on the theme of tanks, we have Burgess's stealth tank, as it's kind of being called. This is, of course, based off of the RTS version of Halo's tank, the predecessor to the Scorpion. And this thing is pretty cool. Definitely a little bit different than the standard Halo aesthetic. It doesn't fit quite as well as a lot of the other stuff we're seeing, even some of the fan-in designs. Just because of when it came out, you know, it kind of came before the whole Halo look was finalized. You know, what they're still trying to find what that look was and everything. The art direction was kind of shifting and stuff still. Now, with that being said, you know, just like with the MA2B, I love seeing stuff like this. Things that were just concepts, things that are just, you know, pictures in the lore that aren't necessarily part of the standard games, you know, that maybe they don't fit that standard art style, so they've been gotten rid of, but they're close enough that they can still make it into the universe and feel like part of the universe with, you know, some exceptions. And I think it's great that this thing is getting a home in Operation Trebuchet, and I look forward to seeing this thing on the field eventually, especially under a different faction like the CMA, and, you know, potentially something for the insurrectionists to use as well. And then speaking of kind of different aesthetics, we got Ethan's APC. Very, very basic block out of this thing still, just getting some overhauls and tweaks, and not much else to say about it besides that, just because it is so early in progress. So then we shift over to the Falcon, which is for some reason labeled spoiler on the file name I just saw. And pretty neat, though. Of course, this thing was work in progress ages and ages ago, and I can't remember what the actual name was that we're going to go with on this thing. But the Halo Wars concept version of the Falcon, this fixed-wing fighter, a very welcome addition for me, because while we are getting the Saber as a fixed-wing fighter as well, you know, that's of course supposed to be an exo-atmospheric fighter craft, whereas this thing is a very terrestrial fighter craft. And it feels to me very similar in many respects to the Sparrowhawk. And I guess that's, you know, because it was designed by the same development team, aesthetically speaking, so maybe that's part of the reason why there's so many similarities, is this was created by the Halo Wars 1 dev team, and the Sparrowhawk that we see in the mod is based off the Halo Wars Sparrowhawk design, so that probably explains it. But I love the fact that it's got, you know, a pilot and co-pilot, so who's probably in like an electronic warfare position or whatever. I think it's fantastic, and I really look forward to seeing this vehicle. Then that rounds us back around to Marstruck once again, and we get to see his boat, finally, with an integrated machine gun. So no longer will you have to do an attach to get a machine gun working on his boats. There is a unarmed variant still available in his alpha. However, the machine gun is now integrated. It does not have changing textures, and the textures do not match that of the boat, because it is just using the standard base Warthog machine gun with its textures and everything. Eventually that will be remedied. Either the boat is going to be brought closer to the Warthog, or the Warthog's going to be brought closer to the boat. I don't know which is which. The Warthogs, being older, is probably going to get another pass over here. Kind of similar to the weapons at some point. They would probably imagine change the textures to match it, because they're trying to make uniform colors and everything between all the vehicles and all that stuff. So at some point that turret is going to match the boat. I just don't know which is going to change to make it match. Nonetheless, performance-wise, it seems decent. The gunners will shoot at other boats and stuff. They can absolutely get kills. They can themselves be killed. So it's perfectly functional. There's maybe a little bit of accuracy concerns, at least outside of maybe players themselves using this thing to shoot. AI seem to have a hard time hitting the targets and everything, but a blast to use nonetheless. And then sticking with Marstruck, we go over to buildings. He has also added into his alpha this tunnel. We saw this thing kind of ages ago, but it's been completely redone, scaled up, hallways added to it, road and everything, just major changes all around on this tunnel. It's fantastic. Like I said, we get textures and everything. It is in the alpha, so it's basically ready to go. The textures aren't finalized, and there's a few other tweaks I think that need to be done for it. But I love the results so far. It works with the second disc hallways, or at least it's designed to, so its hallways are the same as the second disc hallway, or it's got one leading in there. So this is going to be great as a modular building down the road, or at least opening up to modular building. You can set this thing up and have it go into a small enclosed marketplace or something like that. Or, have it with a tunnel with maintenance hall access, or part of a secret base or something. There's a lot of things you could potentially do with this. It's also going to have scrolling advertisements, which is just kind of a neat little feature, nice little touch, of course, for lore respects, and one of those things that just kind of helps you feel like you're in a Halo planet or universe or whatever, is, seeing advertisements for things like the Golden Warthog and, Traxxas and stuff like that. So that's going to be kind of a nice little addition to it too, nice little touch. I don't know exactly what advertisements are going to go on there, and I don't think it's really relevant right now, but you need to see that eventually. Then that shifts us on over to First Contact. Now, First Contact, once again, another older thing, unfortunately, because this is so old, I can't credit this, but I'm assuming it was Hollywood that was working on this, because he was the one working on the Sentinels. We have a Sentinel beam rifle that is being held by a Marine with a proxy rocket launcher and all that stuff. So obviously this is 3D rendering software, very early block out and stuff. There's some finer details on this, but I don't think this is the high poly. It's kind of hard to tell though because it is far away, so it's hard to see all of the really fine details that could be potentially on here. It doesn't really matter though, because this is, like I said, at least a couple months old. I think this is probably from back in like August, maybe September that I had this thing, so who knows what this is actually looking like at this point. Nonetheless, very neat. Kind of interested to see how they'll integrate this. If the Sentinels end up being drones, I don't know that it's going to be viable for them to actually drop their guns, but if they somehow figure out another way to implement them, or maybe do it as a script so that when they're destroyed, they drop these things or spawn these guns on the wreck, align them to pick them up, that could be really awesome. Regardless of what they choose to do, I'm still very interested in it. I think it's fantastic that they are adding these things as a handheld weapon, because even though it's not necessarily tactical realism, having the options there to either use it or not is a good thing. I don't think that hurts. If a unit doesn't want to use it because it's not very realistic, it's not tactical to use as opposed to a weapon you're actually trained on. The option's there if you want to use it, but if you don't, it's easy enough to shut that sort of thing down. And then we got a little bit of a tease from Lux here with the strand of toothpaste. Let Go Low have been modeled and are ready for implementation. Of course, this is a big fat joke, and even though people have been asking for hunters, chances are the first Covenant we're going to see are either going to be brutes, jackals, or grunts, I would imagine. Of course, Morthon's already been integrating the brutes, but those are probably a long ways off. He hasn't done any work on those at all recently, as far as I'm aware. The last time he'd worked on them was many months ago, and he did not get very far with them. So honestly, if we're going to see any Covenant, it's probably a long ways off, but it's hard to say. So all I can say is just take this in stride if you guys are waiting for the Covenant. I know it's probably hard to have jokes like this when you guys are waiting for the Covenant so bad, and I know a lot of you guys are, but just hang in there, and maybe one day we'll get something here a little bit more. Until then, we do have a nice little implementation into the dev build, actually, kind of on that note while I'm thinking about it. The Powered Milano Armor mod got integrated into the dev build, if you guys did not see that. And if you guys aren't familiar with that side mod, which is now part of the actual mod, or will be part of the main mod at some point, but now part of the dev build, it adds shielding to the Spartans and to the Elites. It has a ton of customization. It adds HUDs. They're not quite as functional as Optrace HUDs, but nice little flavor there for Spartans and stuff, just to add a little bit of extra spice in there. And you can still use the tactical goggles and stuff like that, so you can use the tactical glasses to give you a functional HUD, and it works really well with the HUD added by the Powered Milano Armor mod. And you can change the color of the HUD, and it adds shields, and you can control what gets shielding added to it, so you can have certain elites that have shields and some that don't, or you can add shields to certain Spartan armors and stuff like that. It's a fantastic and wonderful mod. I love that it's finally getting implemented into the main mod. It's so fantastic. So you guys will have that to give you a little bit more variety on your Covenant units and stuff until then, so you can kind of tweak around with the elites to make some a little bit more weak and make some more powerful, just to give you guys a little bit of extra variety, because obviously that's one thing that I've heard from a few different people now, is that the big issue with the elites is that they're just all too tough to have them as like standard foot soldiers, and have a lot of them haven't be enough for like an entire unit to actually be able to like tackle those guys. Then sticking on with the Covenant here and everything, we have a look at the Ghost, which we've shown off before, and I don't know if we've shown this off before, but this is a very, very close look at it. I couldn't tell what this was up until tonight, literally. I knew it was part of the Ghost and everything, but I couldn't figure it out. It's actually part of the Ghost's gun. At least I'm pretty sure it is. Hollywood is working on the Ghost we've talked about this before, I do believe, and everything, but long ways off from seeing that still. And obviously, Hollywood has a ton of projects that he's been working on, and so many things that we haven't seen yet. Or seen come to fruition yet, I should say, at least. And the closest thing we've got is the Rhino, which, as you guys saw earlier, is still not quite ready to go, at least last I heard. But looking forward to seeing all this stuff come out. Then that brings us over to Community. So we've got Boctor's new Warthog that he's working on. I don't know what his plans for this thing ultimately will be. I probably wouldn't expect this thing coming out in an independent mod anytime soon, but that possibility is always down, the road or whatever. And you never know. Sometimes community members, they can be real slow sometimes with these models and stuff, and then just you turn your back for half a second, and next thing you know, you've got this fully textured model and stuff out, and prime condition and everything. And a perfect example of that would be Vlad, who's now a full dev team member. We haven't seen him for a while, but that's kind of what happened with him. He was just some random community member, and I never really noticed him or anything before, and then all of a sudden, next thing I know, we're getting like some of the best models we've had in Optree just basically popping up out of nowhere. Then that brings us over to Asmane, and he is starting some modeling of his own, so he's starting work on the camping stool, or bench, or whatever you want to call it. Very basic little prop, but once again, one of those little things that just helps you feel like you're in the Halo universe. And a camping stool is such a basic thing. It's an easy miss thing, but it's just enough that when you're looking at that, it's just feels a little bit off. Makes you feel like you're somewhere sort of familiar, but not quite right. And I think that's what goes a long way in helping you feel like you're in a little bit of a different reality. It's grounded in reality, but different enough that you're immersed and you feel like you're somewhere else. Alright guys, that is all for this week's video, I think. I'm pretty sure I didn't miss anything. If I did, I'm sure I'll hear an earful about it from somebody. And that somebody's probably Vespade, and he's definitely not going to be holding a gun to my head yet, but he will be by the time that this video is over. If I did forget anything, of course, guys, let me know. I am happy to make amendments and stuff. I do get stuff wrong and everything, so if I ever get that stuff wrong, and I do make mistakes on names and stuff, and I tend not to realize it, and spelling mistakes, really just need an editor is what I need. Hey! Who wants to be an editor, guys? No. Joking aside though, guys. I appreciate you guys watching the video. Thank you for taking the time to listen to all this. Once again, shifting these to Sundays going forwards. If you guys didn't hear that in the very initial beginning for whatever reason, thank you guys. Take it easy.